Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Planning and Placemaking Committee of the 6th of July. I was going to say April. Gee whiz, months back. I'm going to ask Danny to do a roll call just to make sure everyone's here.
Yes, thank you, convener. Members, as same sort of drill as twice before today. I'll just go through here in the chambers, and if the folks at home, when I get to your name, you can let me know whether you're in the meeting. So in chambers, Councillor Anderson's here in chambers, as is Councillor Braun, as Councillor Cuthbert, as is Councillor Drysdale, as is Councillor Illingworth. Councillor James in the meeting.
Yep, I'm still here, Danny. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Leishman's in the chambers. Convener, I've heard from yourself. You're obviously here. Councillor McLaren, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Thank you.
Councillor Reid.
Present. Yep.
Thank you. And then Councillor Stewart, Waters and Williamson are all in the chambers. So that's everyone back in the meeting now, convener.
Thank you, Danny. We now move on to the next item. It is 22//00429/FLL. And it is a change of use and alterations to former bank, Class 2 to former hot food takeaway and installation of a replacement flue. Royal Bank of Scotland, Drummond Street, Comrie. Oh,
Sorry, I think we're an item ahead of ourselves there.
yes, we are. I'm an item. Everybody else isn't. I am. Right. We'll try that again. Where are we again? Relations to a dwelling house. Right, I do apologise for that. We'll move on now to item 21//002280/LBC. Alterations and extension to buildings to form 6. What have I done here? Where am I? Right. Next item. Finally, we'll get it there. Next item is erection of dwelling house approved of matter specified in conditions 19//01540/IPL. Land 20 metres northeast of Cairn Cottage, Kinocktry, Cooperangris. And I believe it is Paul Williamson that's doing the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, convener. As you correctly point out, this application seeks the approval of matters specified in conditions relating to a planning permission in principle, which was approved in 2019. Next slide, please. This aerial extract shows the location of the site approximately 1.2 kilometres to the southeast of Burrowton, which is on the A94 Cooperangus Road. The site itself is located in a relatively rural area of Kinross, albeit adjacent to an existing grouping of 3 dwelling houses and to the north of a range of farm buildings at Kinross, which appear disused. Next slide, please. This slide illustrates the relationship of the site to the farm buildings at the entrance to the site, as well as the relationship next to the 3 buildings and ancillary buildings at the western end. Next slide, please. This next slide shows the site layout plan of the proposed bungalow adjacent to Cairn Cottage. While the building line steps forward of the adjacent cottage, this replicates the layout at the western end of the cluster. The plan also shows the existing hedged boundaries being retained and the provision of foul and surface water drainage to the north of the site. Access would be taken from the shared access track to the southwest, with a small corner of the field required for that purpose. Next slide, please. This slide illustrates the proposed elevations of the proposed bungalow, with materials including rough cast and facing stone and off-white render. The roof would comprise a slate grey roof tile, while windows and doors would be grey UPVC. This also shows the relationship to the adjacent dwellings as well in terms of materials. I'll now move on to a selection of recent photos which will show the various elements of the proposal I have described. The first photo shows the site taken from adjacent to the boundary with Cairn Cottage and the shared access track. This shows the strong delineation of the existing hedge along the eastern boundary with Burrelton in the distance. Next photo, please. This next photo shows the adjacent dwelling, Cairn Cottage, to the immediate west of the application site with white rendered walls and a slate roof. Next photo. This next photo shows the stone dyke which forms the southern boundary of the house plot itself with retained agricultural land beyond. Next photo, please. This first photo shows the view northwards, showing the existing boundary treatment. Next photo, please. This next photo is taken from the southeast corner of the plot, looking back towards the adjacent 3 dwellings. Next photo, please. This shows the eastern facing gable of Cairn Cottage and the existing boundary hedge. Next photo, please. This view shows the outlook northwards from the site towards Burrelton. Next photo, please. The next photo is from the northeast corner of the site, looking westwards over the rear garden ground of adjacent properties. Next photo, please. And this next photo is from the northeast corner of the site, looking southwards towards the site entrance. Next photo, please. This next photo shows the opaque glazing on the eastern gable of the adjacent dwelling house, which is expected to serve a bathroom or water closet. Next photo, please. This next photo is from the point of the access into the site towards the shared access road. Next photo, please. Next photo is taken from the aforementioned shared access track looking southwards towards Kinross Farm. Next photo, please. This next photo is also from the shared access track, but this time looking northwards, giving the context of the 3 different styles and scale of existing property in the existing grouping. Next photo, please. The next photo shows the last stretch of shared access track adjacent to the vacant farm buildings where it meets the public road. Next photo, please. The penultimate photo shows the westwards visibility splay from the site access. Next photo, please. And this last photo shows the corresponding visibility splay eastwards from the site access. Thank you, convener. That now concludes the presentation for this application, and we now return to the site location plan.
Do we have any questions for officers on this application? Councillor Anderson.
We saw the photograph of the cottage to the west of the site. What windows look upon that from the new proposed house? To the side door or something? I don't remember it.
Thank you.
Bathroom on the old house, but the new house. What is it? Is it the back door or something?
Yeah, if you just let me refer you to, I think it's paragraph 40 in respect of the report. So it confirms, obviously, there's the small window on Cairn Cottage, which we expect is a bathroom. The window arrangement on the proposed house will be a utility room, both of which are not habitable rooms and therefore do not lead to any form of concerns over residential amenity or privacy.
Councillor Braun, you've got a couple of questions?
Thanks, Convener. Yes, just 2. First one is one of the comments in the objections was to do with the validity of the in principle that was granted on this case. We do mention it earlier on, and paragraph 29 does say that you've investigated and you're happy with it, but I just wonder if you could expand on that, because it comes up several times in objections, and that you mention it in various paragraphs that it is compliant with the PPP. But as I say, objections were that because of work done on the track, it invalidates the PPP. I just wonder if you could expand on that, please.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Braun. From my understanding, the matters raised in respect to the validity of the previous permission also related to the appropriate serving of notices upon owners of the application site or parts of the site at that time. Obviously, there is a live permission that has been granted for planning permission in principle on that site. The period for any judicial review of that decision has since passed. In this instance, the appropriate owners of the red line site boundary have been notified again, and any disputes over ownership, etc., are a separate and civil matter.
Thank you. Just one other question. The other question was the points raised again by objectors was regarding getting construction traffic up to the site itself, because it's quite a narrow track. And I just wondered, should there be some form of construction management plan in the condition? I mean, I know we normally only have these when it's a major development, but given the access, should we have something in as a condition to ease the flow of traffic?
I think Dean Solomon's happy to answer that one.
Yes, indeed, happy to address the councillor's question. The current track serves a farm essentially, and there is large farm vehicles that already operate through the access. The amount of construction traffic associated with the construction of one dwelling house is thought to be minimal and not an issue in this circumstance.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Yeah, which maybe just to also clarify that the road accessing the site is private and not a public road where we might have control or we'd wish to see control in public areas. As a private road, there will be controls through the legal requirements or arrangements between the various owners.
Oh, it's okay. It's back on. Is it back on? I see no further questions in the. Oh no, I do apologise. There is a further question. Councillor Illingworth.
I see that a slate roof isn't specified. Is there a reason for that?
Certainly in this instance, and as I alluded to in the reference to the picture which gave the context of the site across the three different properties, you know, there are a variety in building materials and roofing types, so there is already roof tile utilised within the existing grouping. Yes, the neighbouring dwelling does have slate. Obviously, in this instance, they have table tile because it has already been used in the group. We've considered that to be acceptable in this instance. It's obviously quite a low rise building in the form of a bungalow, so it's not going to be overly seen from many public locations. So in this instance, we are satisfied that that's acceptable.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for officers? No more questions. Can I ask for a motion? I'll put forward the motion for it. Accept. Just formally. A seconder.
Happy to second. Happy to second, convener.
Yeah, I'd be happy to move proposal of the paper with additional condition for a slate roof.
Do we have a seconder? Oh, Councillor Braun, you're seconding.
I was seconding your motion.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor Illingworth's amendment? So there's no seconder, so
I put second in the chat,
right.
the convener. I'm happy to second the Councillor Illingworth's motion amendment.
Okay.
Convener's rightly asked for clarification of the ground, but assuming that claiming that the specification of slate tiles is more in keeping with the vernacular and the amenity of the character of the placemaking policy. Apologies, Councillor Drysdale. I was getting confirmation from Councillor Illingworth that the basis for his amendment is on the basis that the additional specification of slate tiles is, in his opinion, aligned to the placemaking policy 1B in as far as it better respects the character of the neighbouring properties.
That's entirely correct, Mr. Fogg. Thank you.
I will forgo my rights to sum up. Hand over to Mr.
In which case, if the committee is content for me to keep it in paraphrase terms, essentially the motion is your own, which is to approve the application in accordance with the Head of Planning's report of handling, and the amendment is by Councillor Illingworth, which is to approve it also, but with an additional condition seeking the delivery of slate tiles. Pass over to Danny now.
Sorry, Convener, just want to clarify something. Could, rather than have a vote, could this not be incorporated into the conditions, or is there? Oh, right, okay. Just one we could just be put in. Okay.
Yes, thank you, members. So, as you know by now, in accordance with the council standing orders, we'll now take a roll call. When I call your name, you can let me know whether you'll be voting for the motion, which came from the convener, seconded by Councillor Drysdale, or the amendment, which came from Councillor Illingworth and Councillor Reid. Councillor Anderson.
Amendment.
Councillor Braun.
Motion.
Councillor Cuthbert.
Motion.
Councillor Drysdale.
Motion.
Councillor Illingworth.
Amendment.
Councillor James.
Motion.
Councillor Leishman.
Motion.
Councillor Massey.
Motion.
Councillor McLaren.
Amendment.
Councillor Reid.
Amendment.
Councillor Stewart.
Motion.
Councillor Waters.
Motion.
And Councillor Williamson.
Motion.
Okay, thank you, members. So that's 9 votes in favour of the motion and 4 in favour of the amendment. So the motion will carry.
Thank you for that. Right, we'll move on to the next one, which is correct this time, I hope. It's 22/004 29/FLL. Change of use and alterations to former bank class 2 to form hot food takeaway and installation of replacement flue. Royal Bank of Scotland, Drummond Street, Comrie, Crieff. And this will be introduced by Mr. Williamson.
Sorry, convener, it's actually myself taking this one. But thank you, and members will be pleased to know that this is the last planning application as such on the agenda today. So this application seeks detailed planning permission for the change of use of the former Royal Bank of Scotland building to form a hot food takeaway and the installation of a replacement flue. The building is a Category C listed building and is located within the Comrie Conservation Area. The bank is now closed and planning permission was approved in 2020 to convert the whole building, which is over 3 floors, to residential flats with a separate flat on each floor. That permission has not yet been implemented but has not yet expired. I'll now move to a presentation to outline the detail and context of the proposals. This aerial image shows the location of the site in the context of Comrie. As seen, it is relatively central on the corner of the A85 Drummond Street and the B827 Bridge Street. Next slide, please. This next slide shows the proposed and existing plans. If you can't make out the writing, the top row is the proposed plans and the middle row is the existing plans. As seen, there is very little change to the external of the building other than the replacement flue, which is to be in the approximate location of the existing steel duct. It is worth noting that the ATM is to be retained and is not proposed to be removed as part of the proposals. I will now move to a series of photographs showing the site in its present state. This first photograph shows the front of the building. As seen, the building affords a prominent corner position and as such the reuse of the ground floor is welcomed. Next slide, please. The next photograph shows the rear of the building and the existing steel duct to be replaced by a new flue. The position of the flue is not highly visible from the surrounding area, and the Council's environmental health team have no concerns in relation to amenity for the replacement of this flue, subject to conditional control as recommended in the report before you. Next slide, please. This final photograph shows the lane down the side of the building. The previous photograph showing the flue was on the rear of the building, around the corner from the air conditioning units, which you can just make out. Next slide, please. Thank you, convener. That now concludes the presentation for this application, and we now return to the proposed plans.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions for the officers on this application? Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, convener. I just wanted to clarify the local development plan policy 28A in relation to conservation areas, and to ask whether what is proposed here, i.e. a change of use, could be construed as changing the character or appearance within the conservation area, or whether it is purely development as such rather than change of use that's covered by that policy.
Thank you. I can answer that question. So the policy in relation to conservation area is all about protecting and enhancing the conservation area. So for the purposes of this application, the main point of relevance would be the external changes to the building, which in this case is the flue. So it's obviously a material consideration that there is an existing steel duct there and it's a replacement of the flue. But yes, in answer to your question, with regards to conservation area policy, it's the relevance here is the external of the building, and there's no changes proposed other than the flue.
And just for absolute clarity then, in any conservation area, it is not contrary to policy to change the use of a building.
No, a change of use would not impact upon the character or appearance of a conservation area, but if the change of use had any associated amendments such as a flue or changes of windows and the likes, then that's a consideration, but the change of use itself would not be a consideration for the conservation area.
Mr. Smith, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I think and maybe you can help me here. I think you're referring to amenity considerations rather than character of built environment. Yeah, so the policy that you're referencing focuses on the quality of built environment. Other policies in the plan deal with amenity considerations. So reading the plan in the round, you would focus on those relevant amenity considerations, I think, in terms of the use and its potential impacts. But in this case, the impacts perhaps are focused on odour from cooking being undertaken, and that is the purpose of the flue.
Thank you. Councillor Braun, you have a question.
Yep, thank you, Convener. It's just a quick question on parking. Do we have any concerns about parking, which obviously has a knock-on effect to road safety? And the other quick supplementary was that on one of the photographs you showed us, there was a sign that said private parking. I'm just wondering, is there off-street parking behind the bank that people could use?
Mr. Salmon, you want to answer that?
Yes, happy to comment on that. In terms of parking, there are a variety of off-street parking available, both private and public, within a reasonable walking distance, that being less than 400 metres, as well as an amount of direct on-street parking, both to the frontage and in the adjacent streets. And there is essentially, in terms of change of use, there is no concern over available parking to support the proposal.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Sorry, Sean, you want to further?
Thank you. No, it was just on the back of Councillor Braun's question there. It's also worth noting that the existing use as a bank had no parking arrangements associated with it, and they could revert back to that use without any planning approval. And we don't consider a hot food takeaway to have significantly more traffic generation than its former use as a bank. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further questions? Committee? No. Can I ask for a motion? I will put forward the motion. Oh, Councillor James. Oh no, Councillor Bob Braun. Councillor Braun.
Just happy to move the paper, Convener, I think.
Councillor James, you want to second?
Makes sense. I only did it because nobody else was coming forward, but yeah, I totally agree with Councillor Braun. Makes sense.
Right, thank you very much. Yes, that completes all the application before us. So we now move on to the proposals of application notices, PANs. The first one up is 22//00011/PAN. Erection of 2 transformers, control building, associated plan and infrastructure, ancillary facilities, laydown areas, construction compound, siting of welfare site office units, landscaping and associated works, land 170 metres northwest of Studio Cottage, Tummel Bridge. Anyone who's on it? Christian.
Sorry, Convener, I think we just ask members if they have any questions beyond the items that are specified in the paper.
Thank you for that. Do members have any questions? Sorry, Councillor Wilson, I've not got that in my chat. Right, okay, sorry, what was that question? A comment, right, sorry.
I have a number of comments. My first comment is in relation to the junction round about the entrance to the Heineken, in relation to the Heineken substation. It's at the very end of a long straight coming into Tummel Bridge, and the entrance is sat on the corner. I was wondering if it's possible for that to be taken into consideration. It's the only straight bit of road on that section of road on the B846 before you hit the bridge. Second point is around about a traffic management plan, particularly with wide loads heading up and up down the B8019. I understand that it requires a police escort. Can you hear me okay? I'll start again. Can you hear me now? Okay, shall I start all over again? Okay. Okay, my first point is around about the entrance to the site. It sits at the end of a very long straight of road and right on a bend. So I was just wondering if that should be taken into consideration. My second point is around about a traffic management plan, particularly on the B8019 and wide loads of construction traffic coming up the road. I believe it requires a police escort just that road. So I'd be keen that they brought forward a traffic management plan. I am concerned and just seeking reassurance about the potential impact of flooding along that section of river. And finally, I was wondering, is there a developer contribution required on this site, or being a little bit cheeky, is it possible for some form of community funding to be given to the development of facilities in Tummel Bridge? No. Looking at Christian.
Yeah, I can jump in there and answer that last question for you. Until the actual application is before us, we can't assess it for developer contributions because we don't know exactly what is proposed. However, from the information submitted to us at present, it is unlikely that we would be seeking contributions under our current contribution policy.
I think maybe, Councillor, that might be a point better directed to the proposer of the development directly. Obviously, we will consider all the matters that you've raised anyway, but if you wish to influence the design process, then perhaps the public consultation that's ongoing should see members engage directly with the people proposing the development and formulating their plans at this point in time, rather than waiting on a planning application to come before us.
Thank you. Are there any more comments on that one? Right, we'll move straight on to the next one. The next one is 220012/PAN, residential development with associated landscape, framework and infrastructure in part allocated to site H69, land at Forfar Road, Meagle. Are there any comments on this report?
When I've viewed the site and everything else, and I go to the first public exhibition of it, what I got from the community council, number of community council members there present, they were concerned how the number of houses to be allocated to the site had increased from, I think it started about 50 and there's an auction up to maybe 60, 70, you're up to 100 now, plus possibly on the site. There's no numbers mentioned in the paper, but that was of great concern of the locals. There's probably 25% increase in the number of houses in Meagle at the top end. I don't know how these numbers seem to escalate each time. There must be some limit within the planning department. I suppose it depends on the style of the houses, really, that might be allocated to this site. You know, going back 5 years, it's probably half what it is now.
I can talk to you separately about how that process works and numbers that would be allocated in a local development plan as indicative figures related to any identified site.
Mr. Panton, you want to elaborate on that?
No, I think Mr. Smith will be able to answer it independently. But it was also just to point out that because this is a PAN, we don't have the detailing before us. We don't know the exact numbers. But when we do have the application before us, we will assess the numbers and see if it's appropriate for the site before us.
Thank you. Councillor James, you have a comment?
Yes, please, just for the planning officers, as this is a PAN, can we please make sure that our countryside trusts get involved, for footpaths and what have you, because we're trying to, active travel and everything else, and greener space is better to get in at the design stage than it is to try and fit something in afterwards. So I'd be quite keen to see that. It's quite a large area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Nope. And we'll swiftly move on to the last item on the agenda, which is item 220014/PAN, erection of 50 dwelling houses, formation of SUDS landscaping, footpaths and associated works allocated to site H24, land 150 metres southwest of Moncur Farm, Moncur Road, Inchture. Does any member have a comment on this report? No comments? Nope. Oh. Councillor James.
Sorry, I'm on Duracells today. Sorry to be a pain. Yeah, again, when we're looking at this site, I'm just very conscious of how close it is to the A90 and cognizance to noise, which we often get complaints about. So can we make sure that's addressed when we're looking at this site, please, for quite a large development? Thank you.
Thank you. And that ends the meeting for today. So thank you very much for your attendance, and thank you very much to Danny. Thank you very much to Danny for all his service to this committee over the last 3 years, and for the help that he's given me in the last month and a half to get my convenership underway. So thank you very much, Danny, and good luck on your new appointment. Thank you.